You earn $1,000 a month, and the first thing you learn, standing at a till at 1740 on a Thursday with a card that has just been declined for $4.11, is that being poor is expensive. Not metaphorically, actually measurably expensive. You buy the small washing powder because the big one costs 3 times as much today, even though it lasts 5 times as long. You pay $11 for a prepaid electricity top-up that costs $8 if you buy it monthly. Your bank charges you $9 because your balance dipped below the minimum on the 28th, and then charged you $35 more when a debit order bounced 2 days before payday. $55 gone purely as a fee for not having money. Your rent is $480, transport $140, food $320, phone $30. That's $970. You have $30 of margin in your entire life, and one of those bank fees just ate it, twice over. And here's the trap at this level, and it's the cruelest one on the whole ladder. At $1,000 a month, there is nothing to cut. Every budgeting video ever made is talking to somebody else. There's no gym membership, no subscriptions, no takeaway habit. The only thing left to cut is food and heat, and cutting those costs you more later. Your problem isn't discipline. Your problem is arithmetic. And the only real solution at this level is more income, not better habits, more income. But there's one thing that matters here, and it's small, and it's the seed of everything that comes later. A buffer of $100, not a savings plan, just $100 that sits there untouched, would have stopped both of those fees. $55 saved on the first month. The buffer isn't wealth. The buffer is the thing that stops you paying a tax for being broke. Now you earn $3,000 a month, and it is genuinely physically different. You go to a supermarket and you buy the big washing powder. You have a bank account that doesn't charge you for existing. When the car needs something, it's a bad week rather than a catastrophe. Nobody who hasn't done it understands how much of your brain gets handed back to you when you stop doing arithmetic in every aisle. Your month, rent $950, transport $280, food $520, phone $65, insurance $130, a car payment of $290, and the small things, a streaming service, a haircut, a birthday present, a night out, that come to about $400, $2,635. You have $365 left at the end of the month. Or you would, except you don't. Because at this level, the trap arrives, and it's this. $365 of margin is exactly enough to feel like breathing room and not enough to be anything. It disappears, not to anything reckless, to a dentist, a wedding, a laptop charger, a friend's stag, you couldn't say no to. And at the end of the year, you have earned $36,000 and you have $400, and you cannot name a single thing you'd have done differently. This is the level where the pattern is set for the rest of your life, and almost nobody notices it happening because you didn't decide to spend the surplus. The surplus was simply the last thing in the queue, and the queue is always longer than the money. Anything that isn't claimed before it arrives gets claimed after it arrives, by whatever happens that month. The fix at this level isn't a bigger income, it's a mechanism. $200 moved automatically the day after payday, before anything else touches it. Not because $200 will make you rich. It won't, because it's the difference between money you decided about and money that decided about you. That's the muscle. And it is infinitely easier to build at $3,000 a month than at $30,000. Now you earn $6,000 a month. You have arrived. That's genuinely how it feels. You can go out to dinner without a mental calculation. You can buy a plane ticket. Somebody asks what you do, and you say it without a small internal flinch. And here's where the ladder does something clever and slightly horrible. At $6,000 a month for the first time in your life, things become affordable. And affordable does not mean what you think it means. Affordable now means the monthly payment fits. The car you couldn't have considered at $3,000 is $490 a month, and $490 fits. The apartment with the second bedroom is $500 more, and $500 fits. The phone is $45 a month. The furniture is $60 a month for 36 months. Every one of those individually fits, and that's the trap. At this level, you stop buying things and start buying payments, and payments are permanent in a way that purchases aren't. A thing you buy is over. A payment is a subscription to your past self's decision. Your month at $6,000, rent $1,600, car $490, insurance $210, food $700, transport $320, phone and subscriptions $140, furniture $60, the small things $800, $4,320. You have $1,680 left. Which sounds excellent, but look at what happened. At $3,000 a month, your fixed costs, the ones that arrive whether you're working or not, were about $2,200. At $6,000, they're $3,500. Your income doubled. Your obligations grew by 60%. You are not twice as free. You are about 40% more free, and you are considerably harder to get out of. Here's the number. Nobody at this level calculates. How many months could you survive if the income stopped tomorrow? At $3,000 a month with $200 saved a month for 2 years, it was about 2 months. At $6,000 with a bigger buffer but bigger obligations, it's about 3. You doubled your income and bought yourself 4 extra weeks of freedom. Now you earn $12,000 a month. This is where it gets psychologically interesting, because this is where the costs stop being about things and start being about who you are. The house isn't just bigger, it's in a particular area. The one with the school, the one where the neighbors have particular cars, the one your colleagues live in. That decision doesn't feel like a spending decision. It feels like a life decision. Nobody experiences moving to a good school district as lifestyle inflation. But your rent is now $3,400 a month, and it is not coming down, because coming down would mean moving your children. And that isn't a spreadsheet decision anymore. The car matches the job, not out of vanity, out of a sort of gravitational pressure. You turn up at a client meeting, and there is a version of you that fits and a version that doesn't. And the version that fits costs $890 a month. Your month at $12,000, house $3,400, cars $950, school and child care $1,800, food and household $1,200, insurance and medical $600, transport $450, holidays amortized at $500, small things $1,400, $10,300. You have $1,700 left. Read that again. At $6,000 a month, you had $1,680 left. At $12,000, you have $1,700. You doubled your income again, and your actual surplus moved by $20. And this is the trap at this level, and it has a name. Your costs are no longer costs. They are commitments. School fees, a mortgage, a neighborhood, a standard of living. Your family now considers normal. You cannot cut a commitment the way you cut a subscription. At $6,000, downsizing was inconvenient. At $12,000, downsizing is a family conversation with real losses in it. This is the level where people say, I earn more than I ever imagined and I feel more trapped than I ever have. And both halves of that sentence are true, and neither one is stupid. The move at this level, and it is difficult, and most people don't make it, is to deliberately let one big thing stay smaller than you can afford. 1. The house, or the car, or the school, or the holiday. Not all of them, just one held back on purpose, as the thing that keeps the whole structure flexible. Because a life where every single fixed cost is at the maximum, your income supports, is a life with no give in it at all, and lives need give. Now you earn $25,000 a month. And you discover the 2 things nobody warns you about at the top of a salary. The first is tax, and specifically what tax does to the feeling of a raise. Somewhere along this climb, a meaningful chunk of every additional dollar stopped arriving. You negotiate hard for a raise, you win it, and the amount that lands in your account is noticeably less than the number you fought over. This isn't a complaint about tax being unfair. It's a fact about the shape of the ladder. The higher you go, the more the top of the ladder costs to climb, and the less each rung gives you. The second is more subtle and more expensive. At $25,000 a month, your reference group has changed completely. The people around you, colleagues, neighbors, the parents at the school gate, are all at this level or above it. And human beings do not measure their spending against their income. They measure it against the people they see. So, the holiday isn't extravagant, it's what people do. The kitchen isn't a renovation, it's overdue. None of it registers as excess because everyone visible to you is doing the same thing. Your month at $25,000, house $5,500, cars 1,600, school 3,200, food and household 2,000, insurance medical and cover 1,200, holidays amortized at 1,500, help and services 800, small things 3,000, 18,800. You have 6,200 left, and that is genuinely more than at any level below. But now ask the only question that has ever mattered on this ladder. If the income stopped on Monday, how long could this life run? Your fixed monthly cost is around 18,000. If you have, and this is typical at this level, around 80,000 in accessible savings, the answer is 4.5 months. You earn $300,000 a year, and you are 4.5 months from your life not working. Someone earning 6,000 a month with a burn of 3,000 and 30,000 saved has 10 months. They earn a quarter of what you do, and they are twice as free. Now you earn 50,000 a month. And here is the thing that the whole ladder has been building toward, and the reason this video exists. At 50,000 a month, the traps below you have not been solved. They've been furnished. The poverty premium fees of level 1 are gone, yes. But the payment thinking of level 3 is now applied to bigger payments. The commitment hardening of level 4 is now a house, 2 cars, 2 schools, and a standard of living, with 4 other people's expectations built into it. The reference group problem of level 5 is worse because the people around you now are the ones with the boats. Your month at 50,000, house 9,000, cars 2,800, schools 5,000, food and household 3,000, insurance and medical 2,000. Holidays amortized at 3,000, services and help 2,000, small things, which at this level are not small, 6,000, 32,800, 18,000 a month left over, which is a genuinely enormous amount of money. And your fixed monthly burn is $32,800, which means that every single month you do not work costs you more than most people earn in half a year. Here's the whole thing, and it took 6 levels to be able to say it plainly. At every single level of that ladder, the surplus was roughly the same. 1,600, 1,700, 6,000, 18,000, it grew, but nothing like as fast as the income did. And the feeling of margin barely moved at all, because the trap was never at one particular income. The trap was the pattern. Every time the income rose, the life rose to meet it, automatically, without a decision ever being consciously made. And the number that determines whether you are free was never the number on your payslip. It was the gap between what arrives and what leaves. At $1,000 a month, the gap is $30, and you can't fix it. You need more income, and that's real. But somewhere around 3,000, the gap becomes a choice. And from that point onward, every single level offers you the same choice again, in a bigger costume, and most people say no to it 6 times in a row, while telling themselves they'll start at the next level. The person at 6,000 a month with a burn of 3,500 is building something. The person at 50,000 a month with a burn of 32,000 is running something, and it is running them right back. So here's what actually works. At every rung, decide the gap before the money arrives, not after. A fixed percentage, automated, moved the day after payday. 20% if you can, 10 if you can't, something if neither. The percentage matters less than the fact that it happens before your life gets a vote. When your income goes up, let the gap take at least half of it, not all of it. You're allowed to enjoy your life, and a plan with no joy in it dies within a month. But half the raise goes to the gap, half goes to your life, and you will never once miss the half you didn't see. Count your fixed costs separately from everything else, and know that number the way you know your own birthday. Not what you spend, what leaves whether you work or not. That's the number that decides how long you'd last. And be suspicious of anything that turns a purchase into a payment. Payments are how a life quietly hardens around an income. Every one of them is a small promise made by today's version of you that some future version has to keep. Because the ladder doesn't end. There is always another level, and every level has a version of you at the top of it, earning more than you ever imagined, quietly wondering why it still feels this tight. It feels tight because tightness was never about the income, and the only person who was ever going to decide the gap was you, at whichever rung you happen to be standing on right now.